Hey there, my name is Jason. I am the founder of Distress Loan Advisors. I have had a consulting company that focuses on nothing other than SBA settlements and SBA loan related issues since 2009. So I've helped hundreds, probably thousands of people. I've settled, and I stopped counting at some point how many loans that I've settled for clients. And these days, the hot topic is EIDL loans. So that's what I'm leaning into. I still do my regular consulting, but EIDL loans is what everyone wants to know about. So that's what we're talking about. The first thing I want to say is I hate social media. Sorry. I mean, this is a video I'm putting up, but here's what drives me crazy. When you Google like EIDL deferment or something like that, you get these guys who have super popular channels who have never actually settled an SBA loan. They've never actually worked through the EIDL loan deferment process. So these are guys who are great at social media. They're everywhere. They're TikTok, they're YouTube, they're Facebook, they're Instagram, whatever. These are the top guys that come up, but you know what? It's not the best information. It's not the best information. You know why? Because they don't have the information. They haven't done this for a living. I was a workout officer for the largest SBA lender in the United States of America. It was the biggest lender of 7A loans, SBA 7A loans. I was a workout officer. So I was in charge of a team of people. In total, it was like $400 million of defaulted SBA loans. So that was my job. That was my whole job, to handle that whole thing, to sue people, to shut people down, and to process offer and compromise and work directly with the SBA. So like, who's more qualified than me to do this stuff? Yet you've got these YouTube personalities who, they tease whatever to sell whatever they're selling. And because they've got a marketing team and they understand the algorithm, they come up first and no one sees my videos. What are you going to do? So I'll cut to the chase. I have stuff to sell too. I offer consultations. It's $250. I'll tell you whatever you need to know about your EIDL loan or your regular SBA loan. If you're looking for something more substantial, if you want to settle an SBA loan, I offer that. That's much more expensive. And I actually made an audio course for EIDL. That's $150. It runs 90 minutes, answers 20 questions, basically every question I can think of that people ask me. And I've done over 200 consultations, so I've answered a lot of questions. So that's what I'm selling. What I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to answer some of the questions that I cover in my audio course. I'm not going to cover all of them, of course, because let's face it, you wouldn't buy it if I gave all the information away for free. So let's cover some of the questions that I cover in my audio course. First, is the SBA going to put me in jail if I don't pay them back? And I've actually had people ask me this question. The answer is no. Defaulting on your EIDL loan is not going to land you in jail. The sort of thing that lands you in jail is fraud. So if you took an EIDL loan and didn't have a business and went and bought a car with it, yeah, that's fraud. You could probably end up in jail. If you took an EIDL loan and used it for working capital and that was the intended use, then no, it's not a problem. I'm not going to say it's not a problem. You're not going to end up in jail if you default on your EIDL loan if you've done everything else right. Sure, there could be some, civil litigation. They can sue you and go after their money, but they're not going to put you in jail. And we'll get into, what they actually can do, just to put your mind at ease. So that's the first question. Can they put me in jail? For the vast majority of people out there who have done things honestly, no, they're not going to put you in jail. Only if you committed some sort of fraud would that even be a possibility. Next question. Did I pledge my business assets as collateral? There's a lot of confusion about, did I pledge collateral? Did I give a guarantee? So let's just clarify that. If you borrowed over $25,000, they required you to pledge your business assets. And that's regardless if you have other financing in place that also took those assets as collateral. So in other words, if I had a $100,000 line of credit from, the bank of Jason down the street, and they had a UCC lien against my assets, the EIDL loan is going to come after that if I took my EIDL loan after I took my line of credit from Bank of Jason. So even though there's not value for the SBA, they do take a lien on those assets for any loan over $25,000. And basically, you can do a UCC lien search, and they will, the SBA's UCC lien filing should come up. So what does that mean? What it means is if your business closes, you can't just sell the stuff and pocket the money. That's the collateral for your loan. And so the SBA has the right to any cash that you receive from the sale of those assets. Now, will the SBA come themselves and sell the assets? No, probably not. And the reason is it's just a manpower issue. Most lenders, and keep in mind the EIDL loans did not come directly through lenders, but for other types of loans they do. And in those situations, the lenders always hire third parties. So in other words, the lender's employees are typically not going out themselves to do the liquidation. They hire an auctioneer to go look at the stuff, determine what it's worth, and then put it in an auction or find a private buyer or something like that. When it comes to SBA, they're probably not going to do that. There's too many loans. It would just be too complicated. So what the SBA is likely to do is just ask you to do the liquidation yourself. And if you can sell it for something reasonable, you send the money to the SBA, they apply it to the principal balance. My recommendation would be before you sell anything, get the SBA's okay to do it. You just don't want them to accuse you of selling it for far less than the liquidation value. Likewise, if you're going to do something like selling it to yourself, selling it to a friend, a family member, something that is not arm's length, you are going to want to get SBA permission on that. The whole idea here is you don't want them accusing you of doing something you shouldn't have with the collateral. Now, that's collateral. Now, personal guarantees. People seem to be confused because I've had people say, oh, over $25,000 I had to personally guarantee, right? No. Over $200,000 you had to personally guarantee this debt, which means if you borrowed less than $200,000, you should not have been required to sign a personal guarantee. And there's an easy way to double check that. I've spoken to several hundred EIDL borrowers. A bunch of them have sent me their loan documents. And what I found is that anyone under 200 within the loan documentation package, there was no personal guarantee, and that would be a separate document. And there is confusion about this because at the bottom of the note, there is some language that says by signing this individually or as a business that, basically you're the borrower. Or it says it doesn't say you're the borrower. It says if you sign this individually, then you're liable. And that is, it's confusing language. Basically what the SBA meant was if you're signing as an individual and you're named as a borrower, if me, Jason, is named as the borrower, then if signing this, yes, I'm obligated. But if I'm signing on behalf of Jason LLC, which is listed as the borrower in the loan authorization, then signing it as a member of Jason LLC does not obligate me, Jason, personally. I know they could have done a much better job of clarifying it, but they didn't. But really, the best thing you can do is look for that unconditional guarantee. It's generally right after the note in the loan package, and it'll say right at the top, unconditional guarantee. It'll have your personal name, and you would have had to sign it. If you don't have the documents, contact the SBA. They can send you the documents. I know a lot of people can't find them or didn't get a copy when they e-signed. You can contact the SBA. They will send you they'll send you a copy of those documents, and then you can determine once and for all if you're personally liable. So anything over $200,000, highly likely that there is a personal guarantee in there, and that means that if your business fails, you can't just walk away because you've pledged to them that you will use personal assets to repay the loan. Now, if your business closes and you have no personal guarantee, the question is, well, what's their recourse here? What can the SBA do? All they can do is go after that legal entity. So, if they want to sue your LLC, they certainly can. But practically speaking, I don't see it happening. And the reason is these LLCs, most small businesses and most small business owners understand this, that, your LLC or your S Corp or your C Corp, it's an entity that exists on a piece of paper. So when your pizzeria closes, let's say I had a pizzeria and it's called Jason's Pizza LLC, and I took an EIDL loan for $150,000. If Jason's Pizza LLC closes and I've pledged the assets, all the SBA can do is pursue Jason's Pizza LLC for whatever assets it has remaining. I've already pledged them, and so I'm fine with that. If you want my pizza oven, you can come get it. If you want me to try to sell it, fine. I'll sell it on Craigslist. I won't get much for it, and I'll give you the money. So once that liquidation happens, all you really have is this entity that no longer has income, no longer has assets. And so the question is, what's the benefit to the SBA of, filing a lawsuit against Jason's Pizza LLC? Really not much. And that's why I believe they're not going to do it. They're smart enough to know that's a waste of time and money for them. It's highly likely they won't be able to recover them. If I were in their situation, I would certainly go after the low-hanging fruit, which would be larger loans with more significant assets with personal guarantees. And so if you have a loan with a personal guarantee, it is significantly more likely that the SBA would pursue you. So bottom line, if you didn't have a guarantee, that's a really good thing. A lot of people think it's too good to be true, but the SBA, they were giving out these loans as, basically an emergency triage measure, right? They were trying to keep businesses alive, and they basically sacrificed underwriting. And they knew that there was going to be a ton of defaults on these things, but they felt that in order to keep some of these businesses alive, they had to get the money out the door quickly, and underwriting was going to slow it down. And by the time they underwrote all these things, it was going to be way too late. All right, I have a couple more that I want to talk about. Deferments. Okay, so the question a lot of people ask is, well, can I settle my EIDL loan? Well, first of all, if you have an EIDL loan without a personal guarantee, there's really no need to settle it for most people. I mean, there's some nuance to it, and I'm not going to get into it here. Book a consultation or buy my course. But bottom line is, without a personal guarantee, there's not a big benefit to settling, I don't believe. So what was I talking about? Oh, okay. So right now, settlements are not an option, but applying for a deferment is option. And so, as you know, the SBA has been kicking the can down the road on this forever. So first they gave people 24 months where they didn't have to make a payment, and then they deferred it another 6 months. And finally, at the end of last year, my phone started ringing off the hook because all of a sudden people were not able to kick the can down the road. It was for like a month or two. And I was like, all right, here we go. We're going to have to figure something out with these things because they're not settling. So what's going to happen? Lo and behold, they came out with another 6-month deferment. It wasn't automatic. So if you owe under $200,000, you can sign into the CAFS account. If you don't know what that is, just Google SBA CAFS account, and there will be instructions where you can set up an account and access all your information. So if you borrowed under $200,000, you can apply for a deferment right through there. If you borrowed over $200,000, you actually do have to reach out to the SBA directly. You can get the contact information on the SBA website. I do include it in my course, free plug for my course. But otherwise, if you can just find the information to apply, they'll ask you for some information. It's not automatic. There's a bunch of people who've been declined. And what I would say about qualifying for a deferment is you have to look at it from their perspective. And their perspective is they're going to offer deferments to people where the 6 months really matter. So in other words, what's going to be different in 6 months than today? Because if your business is on the verge of going under today, then there's really no benefit to kicking the can down the road for another 6 months. And likewise, if your business can afford it today, then we're not going to automatically give you another 6 months. So here's the here's the thing you want to prove to them. I can't pay today, but this, insert whatever the thing that's going to change, is going to change, and therefore I will be able to afford it in 6 months, and that's why you should approve me. That's the general idea. They don't want to hear your sob stories. Everyone's got them. Yes, COVID is hard. It's the government's fault that they shut everyone down. They've heard that a million times before. You need to focus on the facts and why you can't pay today and what this 6 months is going to do to change that. That's what your focus needs to be. Okay. All right, last question. Is the SBA going to force my business to close if I don't make payments? In theory, they could. In practice, I'm going to guess they're not. And much like this, like I said earlier, there's only so many people who work at the SBA. I think it'll be very costly and cumbersome for them to go after Jason's Pizza LLC to shut him down over his $150,000 loan. More likely what they'll do is they'll refer it to the Treasury and do what they can to collect. But I don't see the SBA suing Jason's Pizza LLC, and then I think it was called a replevin order, going back to my workout days. At the largest SBA lender in the country, we would file a replevin, and it might be a state-specific thing. But basically, it was our right to go and say, hey, that's our collateral. We want to take it back, so you can actually show up. Sheriff locks the door, and they take the stuff. I don't think the SBA is going to do that. I think, especially for the smaller loans, I think the SBA's, their hands are going to be tied. They just can't, they're not going to go to like your, yoga studio and take your bar and stuff like that. So can they shut you down? They can. Will they shut you down? I think for the majority of borrowers out there, in particular the ones that borrow less than $200,000, it's unlikely. All right, final question. Will the SBA ever consider an offer in compromise? The answer is we don't know. I contacted the SBA in January of this year. So right now it's mid-February 2023. I contacted them in January and said, look, I'm a consultant. I have a ton of people who are calling me. They want to know, can we do offer in compromise here? And just to give you a little background, my whole business revolves around offer in compromise. I mean, since 2009, my whole business is settling SBA loans. So other types of SBA loans are eligible for this thing called offer in compromise. It's a settlement. You go to them if your business is closed and say, I can't pay you in full. I can pay you something less. It's called offer in compromise. So I contacted them and they said, no, we're not considering them at this time, it's a huge departure. And I think the reason is they're trying to figure out what the heck are we going to do. We've got 3.9 million loans out there, which, it's billions of dollars. They're trying to figure out, well, how the heck are we going to navigate this thing with all these people going under? And I guess they're just not at this point prepared to throw in the towel and start settling. So instead, they're either referring them to the Treasury or they're approving deferments and delaying it. So will they at some point consider offering compromise? I hope so. I think it would make sense. It makes more sense to me to get something than nothing. And really, that's the whole basis for the offer and compromise process anyway. Like the whole reason they do offer and compromise on 7A loans is because they recognize that it's better to get something than nothing. Like, let me give you an example. Yesterday, I had a settlement. My client showed $1.2 million. It was like, $1,250,000. We settled for about $250,000. So, yeah, they wrote off $1 million, but you know what? They collected $250,000. If they took the same stance that they're taking on EIDL loans, that would have cost them $250,000. So that would be ludicrous. So if I were a betting man, I would say at some point there either has to be blanket forgiveness, like partial forgiveness, like, all right, everybody, we're going to knock 50% off your loan. And that's just a number I'm making up. Don't spread rumors. Or they're just going to waive interest, or they're going to open up the doors and start allowing people to submit offers in compromise. And it's going to have to be some sort of like streamlined application process because, the ones I do now, they're done on a one-by-one basis, and they take, it's taking 6 months just to get answers on those. Can only imagine what the wait would be if everybody, if everybody's file took 3 weeks for somebody to review. So if I were a betting man, I think there's going to be offer and compromise at some point, or there's just going to have to be blanket forgiveness. Just a guess, don't know for sure. So that's it. I've been rambling for 20 minutes about SBA offer and compromise. I really do know this stuff. I think I know the SBA workout world better than anybody because I worked for an SBA lender. I'm interested, if you watch my video compared to these other guys who are small business gurus, really what the depth of their knowledge is as opposed to what they just read online and then regurgitate back to you. So that's it. My name is Jason. I am the founder of Distress Loan Advisors. You can check us out at jasontees.com. It's like Jason, like my name, tees, like a t-shirt.com. And I do have a free version of my audio course. Just Google free EIDL audio course, and you will find Distress Loan Advisors. I know this is long. Thank you for listening.